Hello, so today we are going to complete the Polyvagal personal profile map. I definitely recommend reviewing the polyvagal theory overview video that I created so that you have a sense of what this is all about. One of the other things I recommend is that if you complete this personal profile map, you do it in a session with your therapist or ideally immediately before. The reason for that is as we're exploring different nervous system states, it's possible that your nervous system may go into some of those states. And so it's great to have your therapist there to help you regulate and to process the outcome of this exercise. It should take, we'll see how long it is in the end, but it probably will be 10, maybe 15 minutes. What I'm going to have you do is get a piece of paper. And you're also going to get some writing implements. You can also search, you can Google polyvagal personal profile map. If somebody on our team hasn't provided you with this particular template, and you can print it out. And when you have all of those, go ahead and get centered. You've got your paper in front of you, your writing implements, and you're going to choose a kind of neutral color to divide the piece of paper into three sections. Okay, just like you see on this paper, you've got the top green, the middle yellow, and the bottom purple. You don't necessarily need to choose those colors for these sections. So splitting the paper into three. And what we're going to do here is just start with a sympathetic nervous system state. And I'm going to have you close your eyes for a moment, if that's comfortable for you. And I want you to pull up a moment in your life, could be recent, could be long ago, where you went into fight or flight, this kind of mobilized state that we go to first when we're feeling stressed. And we're starting with this section in the nervous system very strategically, and you'll see why at the end. When you pull up a memory of sympathetic, I want you to only pull up a memory that is at most a 5 out of 10 in terms of how distressing it is for you. Okay. So calling up that very specific memory and just allowing your nervous system to let in a little bit of that sympathetic, mobilized fight flight energy. Think back on what it was like for you in that moment to be in that state. And when you're ready, and throughout this video, if you need to pause and have a little bit more time, if I'm going a little too quickly for you, please feel free to pause at any time. But once you've really called up that memory and that state, I want you to choose a color if you have colored implements in front of you. That represents for you that sympathetic fight flight state. Okay. And I'm going to have you record a number of things about this state, okay, in that middle section of your paper. The first thing that I want you to think about is when you were in that state, what was happening in your body? What were you feeling in terms of body sensations? Go ahead and write those down. Once you've written down body sensations, I want you to go ahead and record what you did in that state. What were your behaviors? Next, I want you to record how you felt. What were your emotions? Once you've written down some emotions, go ahead and write down what you were thinking and saying when you were in that state. What were your thoughts? or words. Next, I want you to think about what your sleep, your eating, and your use of substances or any addictive behaviors, how those were impacted. So again, sleep, eating, use of substances, or any addictive behaviors. How did those change? Next, for this sympathetic state, I want you to record the belief you had about yourself. You see on our paper here, there's a start of a sentence that says, I am. So you're going to complete what you believed about yourself in that state, in that fight or flight state. So, for example, it might be, I am overwhelmed. Next, I want you to complete the second statement. The world is. So this is what you believed about the world. This was the story you were telling about the world in that state. So it could be the world is chaotic. The world is scary. The world is dangerous. And lastly, you'll see in our each of these sections in our hierarchy on the screen that there's a box on the side. And that's meant to be the place where you're basically going to kind of rename the sympathetic state for yourself. For some people, sympathetic, dorsal vagal, ventral vagal, these are terms that are hard to either remember or really kind of connect to. So for you, what is a word that could be descriptive, it could be symbolic, that represents this state? So examples of this might be overwhelm, anxiety, anger, or it could again be metaphorical. So something like a fire hose. Go ahead and write down what your name for this state is. Okay, good work. So we started out in the first place our nervous system goes when we feel a sense of danger or threat, which is sympathetic. We are now going to move down the hierarchy the same way we would if we continued to feel unsafe to dorsal vagal. Okay, so first thing I want you to do is let your eyes close. And I want you to call up a memory when you were in a dorsal vagal collapsed, shut down state. Again, really aiming for something that's no more distressing than a 5 out of 10. But letting that experience come into your awareness and letting your nervous system feel just a touch of that dorsal vagal shutdown collapse state. Just a touch. Remembering what it was like to be there. And when you're ready, opening your eyes and choosing a color, right? A pen of a different color if you have colored implements to start to write. We're going to go through the same items that we did in the sympathetic state. So starting with what happened in your body when you were in that dorsal vagal collapsed state? What body sensations were you feeling? So you've written that down. Go ahead and write what you did in that state. What were your behaviors? Next, what did you feel? What were your emotions? What did you think or say? Or your thoughts or words? And note any changes in your sleep, eating, substance use, or any addictive behaviors. So again, did your sleep change? Did your food intake change? Did you use substances more or less or differently? Did any addictive behaviors show up, intensify, lessen? And next, you're going to complete the sentence I am. So this is the story you were telling about yourself in this state. So examples might be I am helpless, I am worthless, I am lost. And next, you're going to go ahead and complete the phrase the world is. So the world is cold, the world is cruel, the world is lost into oblivion, whatever resonates for you. And then lastly, you're going to name this state. Remember, it can be descriptive, it can be symbolic. So it could be the frozen tundra, or it could just be freeze, whatever resonates for you. Beautiful. So we have moved all the way down the hierarchy to the last place our nervous system goes, according to polyvagal theory, when we are feeling threatened or unsafe. We are now going to return to ventral vagal together. So I want you to let the sympathetic and the dorsal vagal memories go as much as possible. And I want you to bring to mind an experience of ventral vagal. So when you were in your state of social engagement, when you felt happy, connected, like your feet were on the ground. And with this one, I want you to allow yourself to bring in a strong experience of ventral vagal. It can be a 10 out of 10 ventral vagal. Okay. And you can let it flood your system, all that good feeling. No need to hold back here. So letting your eyes close if that feels comfortable, going back to that moment of really feeling safe and connected. And just remembering what that felt like, how you were in those moments. When you're ready, choosing a color, going on back, and we're going to start to write down the very same items. So starting out with what's happening in your body when you were in that ventral vagal state? What were your body sensations? And next, what were your emotions? What were you feeling? What were you doing? What were your behaviors? And what did you think or say? What were your thoughts or your words? Next, really think about how sleep changed, how your eating was, how was your use of substances, how are any addictive behaviors? Again, sleep, food, substances, addictive behaviors. Next, go ahead and complete that sentence that starts I am. This is a story about yourself in this state. So it might be I am safe, I am strong, I am connected. Whatever resonates for you. And then following up with the world is. The world is happy, the world is generous, the world is playful. Whatever story you were telling yourself about the world then. And lastly, go ahead and name ventral vagal for yourself. So it could be, happy. It could be more metaphorical, like the redwood forest. Go ahead and write that down. Okay, beautiful work. You have just mapped your nervous system. I highly encourage you to bring this, if you haven't done it with a therapist, to bring it to them and to process it with them. And this will give you a lot of information going forward about what state you're in, which is incredibly powerful because if you know what state you're in, you know whether or not you need support to feel safer. And because there is this hierarchy in polyvagal theory, you also know where you are in the sequence of things. So if you're in dorsal vagal, you know, okay, I'm going to need to go through some fight or flight to get back to ventral vagal. Okay, very good. Thank you for listening.